number that it's on
Yep,
is, but I think we put them on now because we would all forget to put them on when it's on.
and just make sure you're close, like,
Right, that'll be very close.
and now you can call for.
Okay, all right, well, we'll call the meeting to order at 5:31. We have the budget and the agenda in front of us. And a couple of things here, but the first is, election of officers. Is, let's see. How do you want to do it? This way or that way? Let's do it this way. Is there a motion to elect Tracy as secretary? So moved. Second. Al got his hand up first. Herb, you said the wrong thing. So that's what I did. You're right, you're right. Okay, discussion? All in favor of Tracy as the secretary, raise your right hand and say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, we don't have anybody come in on Zoom.
No.
Nope. Okay, so, and I'm trying to figure out how to do this exactly. Not the way it maybe what I should say, is there a motion to fill the candidacy of vice chair? Al?
I nominate Herb Gunn.
Okay. Any other second? Any other nominations? Okay, all in favor of Herb as vice chair, please raise your right hand and say aye. Aye. Opposed? No, it's unanimous.
Congratulations, Herb.
Thanks. Thanks, everybody. That was Herb. Is there a motion is there a nomination for the chair? I'll
Nominate Michael Sarnix.
second. Second discussion. We're waiting to see you get a knife coming out there.
Stay one side at a time.
Okay. Okay. All in favor of myself as chair, please raise your right hand and say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. Unanimous. Thank you for having it, folks. Thank you for having it.
I should have asked if you wanted it first.
Yeah. If I what?
If you want.
Oh, yeah, you're right. Yeah, you're not, no.
You always do that on the truck meeting.
Yeah.
You really want
them,
them, they
no way, no. Well, if ever they can do that and it crops up that there's somebody that doesn't want it, I'm sure we'll hear from them very quickly. Thanks. No, I don't want that. I won't. But it, thank you. Honor they kept us on. Sort of improving of our performance so far. Review and approve of any remaining minutes. So we have these from February 4th. Is there a motion to approve the meetings, the meeting minutes from February 4th? Herb? Second. Brent, second. Discussion? That was a discussion about Mansion Hill barrier. No. And the presentation. Okay. Any discussion on the meeting minutes from February 4th? No. All in favor of approving the meeting minutes from February 4th, please raise your right hand and say aye. Aye. Opposed?
I abstain.
Understand. All right, the meeting minutes from February 4th. Why don't we do this? It seems nobody's read it, have they?
No.
These out. Why don't we take them with us and
Make a motion to vote on minutes of the meeting, next meeting.
Okay. Second. Discussion. All in favor of voting on the joint meeting minutes from 2025 at the next meeting, please raise your right hand and say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Same, okay, unanimous. Then, okay, that's gone. Review the 2025 budget process. Anybody have any comments, suggestions, points about, I said complaints third. No, I know. Complaints are, discussion about last year's budget process. And what you would like to see or not see for this year.
I would like to actually see the actuals for each department. The actual expenditures for each department, whether I understand Karina mentioned that it would be about a document about this thick, but she has it on a zip drive or something. I'd like to see exactly what each department spends penny for penny.
And I'm sorry, you're probably right, not wrong, but don't we see that in the expenditures?
But we don't actually see, we just see a line, and we see what the final total is. How do we know what made up all these expenditures? How do we know? We don't know.
So Al, you want the final breakdown detail? You want the breakdown, right?
I take it back another step, how they built the numbers and figures.
The budget committee can ask for anything under the sun that will help them
So
prepare a budget.
correct. So my reason is that we ask at the meeting, we see it until 2 or 3 meetings later. And if that, I'm just saying, if the cemetery department, I'm just using this as an example. If the cemetery department says, I spent $1,000 on shovels. Under that line, shovels, there should be $1,000 worth of purchases or receipts. What date, what shovel, everything else. It can be done. I know in the town I come from, I have to have an expenditure line, and I have to have every little item I spend to the penny. And it's so transparent. You see every little thing. How do we know that some numbers aren't just that's what we spent? We don't know that. We're taking everybody's word for it, and I believe there are some things that will be questioned this year, extremely questioned.
I, off the top of my head, I don't think that there's anything wrong with asking for it. Meaning, I think it's in the budget committee's realm to ask for that.
I think it should be a public document on the town's website, to be honest. That's all. That document exists.
Starting from I know in my department with Ronstadt, and I can only use that as an example. You can see every payroll manifest for personnel overtime. You see if I went to the hardware store under equipment and repair, if I spent, $200 on different equipment, you can see every receipt. It's documented where I went, what I bought, and how much it is. And then at the end, if I say I had $10,000 on that line, I only spent, $8,000. It's documented exactly where I spent that. I know it's cumbersome, but there are only 5 departments or 6 departments, really, you think about it. And if it's kept up on a journal, they might have some type of journal it's kept up on. We should be able to see all those expenditures.
As I said, I don't think there's anything wrong with asking for that. Is I'd like to do it when Karina's here.
I totally agree with you. I totally agree. I think that's the right way to do it. And if she knows what we're looking for 9 months from now or 8 months from now, there should be no excuse why it can't be produced.
Yep. And I want us to. I'd like it. I want to see what other people have to say, as well as how much pushback are we going to get on that, and what are the reasons for pushback, if there are any. And it's not, we do it as having those details of, okay, this is what was going on, but it's not a matter of the tone. I don't think we want this to matter that we don't trust them. It's not that we don't trust them. is just another tool that we have to help create a budget. And let's make it a conversational thing, and then we can vote on it at any time. Somebody can make a motion and you can vote on it. It's gonna work. But if it's out earlier, I mean, if we have it out, see it. They can, again, we have to remember that we cannot require them or take them to task over how they spend that budget money. Budget committee can't do that. That's under the realm of the select board and the town managers. We can ask and we can make different suggestions or requests or anything as to what we see that budget, what we would like to see that budget number for the next year. But the way that they spend anything of that budget is we don't have a pay.
But I think we could legitimately make a judgment on whether the budget should remain or be reduced based on how it's spent.
And that's what you could do. If you have examples from other towns where that.
I certainly do.
Okay. Then it's not something, that's, again, you just present your case. It's not an out of ordinary request.
You know, if they were being audited, they'd have to produce an corruption.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, so yeah, it exists, it's just a matter of what format, how sensitive it is, I guess.
Right. And, as I said, let's see what they say. I don't know if there's anything under the statutes that they don't have to produce. I don't know. And, as I said, I would prefer, or I would hope, or from my perspective, is that it's not, we're asking this because there's a lack of trust. I don't have any lack of trust at the moment.
I think skepticism is a vital part of the democratic process.
Yes,
Trust but verify.
trust but verify.
Ronnie Reagan, what a great guy.
And, so yeah, let's see what happens, as we get further. So that leads us into our tentative meeting schedule for 25-26.
And I've already put dates beside things. So if you want me to type it up for the next meeting, I can.
Okay,
If you want me to call them off right now, I can.
go ahead, follow up.
So, it would be starting on, so I just put it next to the old groups. So Tuesday, the 6th of January would be the first one, only because the way the new year falls, let's see, the new year falls on a Thursday, so we have to go to the following Tuesday, which would be the 6th of January. And then, so that would be town clerk, elections, tax collector, library, cemetery. Thursday, the 8th would be legal, insurance, health agencies, welfare, patriotic purposes, long-term debt. Tuesday, the 13th would be public works, water, sewer, streetlights. Thursday, the 15th would be executive, town hall, planning, personal admin, and capital reserves. And then Wednesday, the 21st would be the joint meeting with Woodstock, which we are hosting this coming year. And that would be recreation, community center, solid waste, and special warrant articles. They got ambulance on there. And then, Tuesday, the 27th would be police, fire, emergency management, special warrant articles. I have Thursday, the 29th as an extra snow day. It would push it to Tuesday, February 3rd as voting on the budgets. And then I'm not sure about public hearing and town meeting. Is town meeting always the second Tuesday?
Yep.
So that would be the 3rd, I'm sorry, that would be March 10th, would be town meeting. But I don't know when the public hearing will be out. I know there has to be a certain amount of days before,
Days.
30 days, that's.
30 days before.
Yep.
So that would put it to, February, wait a minute. Third. I'm not sure of that, I have to count back. 10. Like 17. I'm not sure of that one, so the public hearing will have to be. But the town meeting would be the 3rd of March, the 10th of March. So I've got most of the dates right, I'll just put out a draft. And we can look at it.
Yeah, well, I wanted to add, discuss it. Is an organizational, at least an organizational meeting in
December,
early December.
okay.
Because you saw what happened this year.
So early December, if we did early December, it would be the 2nd.
And, tentatively,
Okay, so December 2nd, Tuesday. Okay.
We're not gonna meet quarterly.
I put that out. I'm up,
Yeah.
well, let me throw this out. It's an interesting thing. I would. I'm wondering, I have an interest in being on the representative budget committee on the CIP. I like to do that. Jim used to do it.
Oh, you wanna do it?
Well, I'm
Okay,
expressing
yeah,
interest,
okay,
but you would have to nominate. me
right,
and Put me in there. Part of the reason that I'd like to do it is I'm gonna have more time this year. I'm not gonna be working full schedule. Okay. Because I have more time and I've always been interested in it. But the second reason is, the way that it kind of fell into place last year and in previous years, which is different from our procedures, was that our representative Jim, and it's not him, there's nothing issue, but the way it worked was, you see, we made this thing in the very beginning, like no individual can go to the town meeting or go to the selectmen's meetings or anything and saying, as a budget committee member, I'm saying this. You can't do that. The committee can speak as a whole, but individuals, you don't have an opinion. You can't have your opinion as the budget. Just like Tammy represents the select board. If the select board's voted on an issue, the only thing Tammy can do is present and vote the same way on the issue. She's representing that. So what would happen is that, and it happens over the course of them in the summer, is there's all kinds of CIP meeting minutes that all these decisions are being made about the CIP. And Jim just voted with them, just voted. And you really can't do that. All you can do is take the opinion or take the decision of the budget committee and go and present that. So I'm interested in it just because I'm interested in it. But on the other hand, I'd like to put that process in place. And to do that, because there always, many times the argument came up that, well, no, because you can't slow it up because you're not having meetings when they're making the CIP decision. And it's one of those, well, then it might be this, that you can't make that decision until the representative from the budget committee comes back with the budget committee's decision, but vote. So what that might mean is that we have quarterly meetings. That's why I bring that up. And it's just, that's the way it's supposed to run. And I don't want to make my opinion, I don't want to give, I can have an opinion if I present here, but you vote on what my opinion is and what everybody else is doing. I don't want CIP to make decisions without really our input. And not that I don't want to make decisions, but that's not the way it's supposed to be. If you're gonna have a representative on something, that's speaking just from, and I might disagree with you, but whatever it is that you voted on in that issue, that's what I present. So we could get into, quarterly meetings. So when would quarterly meetings? be?
So this is April,
It should be a quarterly meeting. Or it should have been the end of March.
Oh,
Well, close enough.
Right, yeah.
we've had,
May, June.
we've had July meetings.
so when do they meet? June and
Well, I
July?
don't know, and I'm not worried about it right now.
They meet in July.
Okay,
Right.
so do you wanna schedule something for July or August?
Probably the first week of August.
First week of August, first week of August, that would make it Tuesday, August 5th.
And then,
And then September, October. Or beginning of November, if we're meeting in December, so October. Beginning would be Tuesday, October 7th.
okay,
And then we just said Tuesday, December 2nd. Those would be the next 3 meetings.
okay,
What about if we fill a seat, we might have a special meeting.
Oh, yeah.
That fast.
is,
Which, is that, do we have letters of interest already?
no, Jane said she would have them to us today if they're anything.
Oh.
So I had originally put out on the notice that, because it was short, it's like we have them by May 31st.
Okay.
So, but this was just a couple of weeks ago, so we haven't had it.
So why don't we, maybe if Mike gets any, we might have to have another meeting.
Yeah. So
But
we had a June one time, we have
Yeah.
seats to fill.
So we'll just keep those until we
Yeah.
get that visit.
Do you have any interest
You have to be resident,
in being on? Yes.
locally, I'm not local resident.
I do have interest.
Lock the door.
Um, So. But in thing, you guys have to elect me to represent budget, the CIP.
Nomination to elect Mike as representative, but yeah,
Second. Discussion.
see Curve, second.
All in favor? All in favor? Thank you. Well, I'll do a good job for you.
Yes.
Somebody got it, you said,
What's that?
You know, maybe so.
Do we have a budget committee member on the planning board?
I'm not sure if we get one on there. No, I'm almost positive I don't know.
Paul just kind of spoke, I don't know if he was the representative though.
Well, you see, that's what you gotta stay away from,
Yeah,
because unless we've taken a vote, or there's a consensus on an opinion on something on the planning board, and we've never had that, is then the person that's doing, that's what happened with Jim, and it happened with others too. I'm not pointing at Jim.
yeah,
But it's just their opinion. You know, people, when I first did this, people told me, well, you can go to as the chair, you can go to the select board meeting and you can talk about, tell them, you're the chair. It's like, no, I can't. You don't do that. I don't have any other power.
Unless we request you
Exactly.
as a representative of the budget committee.
The committee as a whole has.
So we have to meet you prior before that meeting.
Right.
And you represent us.
Rightfully, you can't.
And if you just approved, said that Paul was the representative.
From the budget committee? Well, I don't know, we'll take a look.
I'm just throwing it out there. That's what kind of perked my attention, you know.
Well, yeah, I didn't see that.
Jim is the representative, and Paul is the representative of the planning board, yeah, other business, line 68.
Oh, I thought those were planning board minutes.
It says Jim is the representative to the CIP and Paul is the representative to the planning board.
Is that for this upcoming year?
Yeah, that was for this upcoming year.
Well, no, that was for last year.
Oh.
All right, so that's up for discussion.
So I should put in there then, I should change that then on the minutes, if that was for 2024, 25.
No, just leave it the way it is.
That was saying that that's what they could.
Oh, okay.
Yes, that's what I was gonna get.
Oh, okay. I remember electing Jim, but I don't remember electing the
So,
previous year.
um,
I'd have to look back at the previous minutes.
okay. Okay, we don't have any other letters.
I announced that trustee meeting 2 weeks ago, that we had lost some stuff. We're happy to get it up.
Gentlemen, did you have anything you wanted to say?
Nope.
So we just open it to the public now, so. No? Okay, anybody else have anything? No? All right, is there a motion to adjourn?
Hold on.
Yeah, wait, I've got a quick question. Yeah, no,
During our budget process that we do. We condone, I don't know if that's the right word, we consider the department head's ability to put a cushion in their budget. For example, the department head says, I've got a salary in there. I was planning to fill a particular position, but haven't filled it. And we kind of know that they're not planning to fill that position. And it comes up again the next year, they want to put that position in there. It would seem to me that as a department head, one of the major budget concerns would be never overrun the budget. Make sure you've got enough money to get you through the year.
Right.
And I'm not saying they're doing anything illegally, but we in the past have sort of condoned that by saying, if the department head says, I have a salary in there or something in there, which I haven't filled yet, we sort of pass that by, even though it ends up being padding in the budget or excess budget. As long as there's nothing really wrong with that, as long as we consciously are doing it and allowing it to happen.
well, wrong, I don't think there's anything wrong with it. It's, and I, looking at it from that, I don't have a specific as to whether somebody said from last year that they had this position that they wanted to keep it there, and then when it came up at the end of the year, they had to fill it. I don't know, I can't think of one. Is I can see a department head or anything, his department head or anything saying, I want to fill that position. I really need to fill that position. And then over the last few years of shortages of labor, all of a sudden they wanted to, it never happened. But they still want to fill that position. But as I said, I don't have anything in particular right now, and it's not to say that there isn't one. If you find one, go ahead. Bring it out. But off the top, if they think there's another project that's coming that might show up on the radar, they want to have that money there, that they're going to have to hire a position for it. And
I mean, if they have a funded position, it's hard for us to determine whether they have an intent to fill it. I mean, that would be very hard for us to determine. We have a position that is funded on their books. I guess what you're saying, that they just haven't filled it, saying police officer they couldn't hire.
Right.
The real question is the policy of this committee. When we go through the budget process, are we trying to drive out any excess money that's in there?
no, not our position. It's not our job to drive out this.
It's to approve what the department head has presented and the town has presented to us.
Well,
As long as they can adjust it.
is to recommend the prudent expenditure of town money. Prudent is the thing, but that's what I mean when you say drive out. It's like, no, it's like, I don't know if they did anything wrong. Or add padding. We can have opinions individually as to whether something's padded or something isn't right. And you can present that to them, you can ask them about that. And you can discuss it individually, everybody has their opinion on whether it is and whether they have said this is why they're doing it. And then we vote as a unit as to whether we would like to see something different. Or not.
I would have a hard time telling the department that we want to reduce their budget by an unfunded, by a funded position that they have not filled. So then we have to make a determination on their intent.
All right, if I may interrupt, I'm sorry, if you're finished.
Yeah.
Is Al had his hand up.
I think as a budget committee, we support the funding of a position. But at the end of that fiscal year, that position was not filled. Where did that money go for that position? If that was $150,000 position. And at the end, that $150,000 was used someplace else, not for that salary line and not for that position. I think we have the right to question why that money was taken. And that's why I get back to the expenditures.
Right.
To be accountable for that money, because that money seems to find its way to different projects.
And you can question all of it, that's what you should do. Is they can move that money around and we can't say you shouldn't do that or shouldn't do this. The select board and the town, all that money that they have, and they can move it and use it for whatever they need to. And I mean, their responsibility is to do it prudently also. However, if we think that it's not prudent after all the explanation, then we could recommend that budget comes down. The one of the things that I try to is like before, that's because that, you said it was hard to do that. It was one of those, before I did that, I would want to make sure I knew everything that I should know before making that decision. As far as like, okay, is this just me thinking this? Or what's the both sides of it? Because it's you can get into budget battles with the town, budget committee can. I think we're ever gonna do it. But you can get into budget battle based on some of that stuff, and if they believe that they've given out the justification for what they have. I would want to make sure that I know everything that I'm talking about if I'm making a decision. So it's good to question. And somebody once told me to ask the right questions, it never has to be contentious. Question it to the end, question it. And that's sort of why I mentioned to people, it's good to have a knowledge and pay attention to these select board meetings and planning board meetings, because a lot of those answers are answered there. They come up there. Like, just read the minutes. Those things are answered there. Sometimes I know, and I've been guilty of it too. I'm asking a question of somebody, and then I go back and I look at minutes and I go, well, they already explained it in the select board. So, within the scope, it's like, go hard. Just, we all know we all have all the information in front of us, and always remember that it's it's an opinion of the team, the committee. You can ask for anything. You can ask any question you want. Right? If you want.
One other thing, I totally support Al's position on asking for detail of the actuals from the previous year. 2 years ago, when I joined this board, after having spent 50 years doing budgets, I was very surprised that we compare the budget from the previous year with the proposed budget. Nobody does a budget that way. Nobody. And we discussed at the time the fact that we need to incorporate the actuals from the previous year. What did they actually spend as of December 31st of the year versus what they're asking for next year? So what we have done, as we all noticed, the past 2 years, is that we have begun to get information from Karina on the actual expenditures. So we're looking at the gross actual expenditures.
Mhm.
And I think, Paul, what you're asking for now is another level of detail there. Can we get down, can we get the actuals at a lower level of detail? And I think that is absolutely essential information for a budget review process.
Mhm.
I mean, we can look at what they asked for budget last year and what they're asking this year. But last year's budget is frozen in time in the spring, and
Right.
it's the year-end actuals that really are the basis for the next year's budget.
Right, and I thought that we kind of get into the, I mean, not at the detail level like that,
The
but
the last 2 years, Mike, we have been getting into the actuals. We have been getting presentations of the actuals. But I think what Al is asking for is to take that down a level, get more detailed information. on the actuals. And I think that's consistent with what we.
Sure. What I've kind of noticed too, because what happens is at the end of it, if they haven't expended, it goes into the unexpended fund balance.
Or it's spent someplace else,
Right, or it's
as long as they meet the bottom line.
Right.
As we approve, for example, we approved Department HHH for $1.2 million, and they come under budget 1.999. But their actuals are only like 1.6, so they use that extra money, they made their bottom budget line. But what we approved for certain parts of the salary line, equipment, we approved. They just bought stuff they needed because they had leftover money at the end of the year. And stuff that we didn't have knowledge about. And that's what I'm trying to be transparent, because I bring back my budget, I can show you every penny we spent. And under like the fuel line, I tell you which every engine, what they spent, every car, what type of gas, whether it was diesel, DEF, we had to buy DEF fluid, we had to buy regular gasoline. And it's a, it's a pretty thick page, but you can go through and you can justify every expenditure line.
Right.
And you can see the actual. So if I asked for $10,000 of training money, but I only spent 5 in the last 3 years, why am I asking for 10? Unless I have a project, I have 5 more firefighters coming on that I need that money. And I know the budget committee where I come from, cut me back to 5, saying that you're only spending 5 over the last 3 years. So we're gonna give you 5. If you demonstrate to us next year, then we'll bring it up to 7,500. And I know that's how we kind of keep our budget pretty flat funded unless we have big projects.
Does that town give you, do you give the budget committee in your town all the detail
Every single nut and bolt I buy,
to the budget committee?
yeah, it's a pamphlet, yeah, they go through it and
It goes to the town and the town gives it to the
the
budget.
town gives it to the budget committee, yeah. And when they do each department, I mean, I speak for just the fire department there, but I can tell you every penny I bought, everything I bought, penny by penny, and there's no questions. This year, my budget meeting was 20 minutes because everything was self-explanatory. It was right there. They had any questions? Bang. My biggest thing was salary line. And I did have an open funded position. And I did ask the selectmen permission to take that funded position, the money's set aside for that position, including the benefit package. And I could not find somebody to work. So I asked the selectmen, I have it, to take that salary line and put it into the overtime line.
That's what I was gonna say.
And
Does that happen?
they granted it. So when it came back and the budget committee asked, and you have 6 firefighters, but you only have 5 in the manifest every week. I said, that salary of 80,000 plus the benefit package, which it comes up to 110, 115,000, went over to the overtime line, and it was approved by the selectmen on this given day.
Yep, but it's one on the other extreme, but what I remember, and this was Mr. Bowden, I mean, this was a long time ago. And they had the money in there to pave the road going into the transfer station. And that was happened not just with him, but it happened with other things too. And he found the way that saved them like $15,000, town $15,000 on paving of that road. And he wanted to use the money that he saved into something else that was there. And they actually, I don't think they let him do it, they let him do it. Is because no, they want that back in the general fund. But on the other extreme, if you make it so tight, you make it like this, and I'm just guessing, I don't know for sure. But then it's all of a sudden, it's like, well, there's no sense trying to save any money on this because you're just gonna cut it out. Just run it like this. With Billy Willie, I know when they came up with the project on the Kank to rebuild the top of the tow road, is that was going out to a contractor, and Billy came in and said, well, wait a minute, we can do that in-house, this, next, save much money. So it's a balance, like with everything, because if it's, then you become like a real bureaucracy, where it's like, well, there's no sense for us trying to save any money on it, because every dime that comes in is cut. So now they're gonna shrink it down, so, oh, well, we're gonna make sure that we're, don't try to do this.
But we're not actually saying cut it, just saying justify that cost and maybe not add 10, 20% for next year or 4%.
All that's up for discussion, and it should be, it's up for discussion. Anything else? Did we have a motion?
I think we had one.
We did have one?
But I didn't get,
Second.
where you, who said it, you,
Uh,
I didn't get it written down,
I second.
okay.
I will about.
Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor of adjournment, please raise your right hand and say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained, none, unanimous, okay, thank you. everybody.
Let me set it off, hold on.